Welcome back, guys, to part 3 of our mini-series around recession inflation. It's the 29th of September 2022 and we've actually had to reshoot part 3 because since we did it the first time, we've had a mini budget. So I thought we'd done a pretty good job, if I'm honest, speaking candidly, about trying to explain the basics of recession, inflation, spending, base rates, borrowing, and how they all interlink, and the basis of how it's meant to work. And I had us nicely lined up to the powers that be controlling a gentle recession, moving that base rate up, lowering spending over time and trying to bring down inflation. That's what I foresaw, and I thought that inflation would probably be with us for a couple of years, if not a bit longer, but it would drop down to a sort of a more manageable state. And obviously the Bank of England and the base rate controlling things from there. We'd then flip it on its head, drop the base rate, push the economy forwards, and off we go again, because it is a cycle. So I thought that's where we were going to be, and then Kwasi came in with the new government and the mini budget last Friday, and well, they have pretty much blown us out of the water. Do I think their policies are good, bad, or indifferent? Honestly, I am the least political person that you will ever meet, so I really tend not to have an opinion. But obviously, when it's affecting my businesses and properties and what we do here, then we do take an interest. I'm not going to delve into whether I think it's a great idea or not. I appreciate some of the things that they're trying to do regarding bolstering the economy, betting on us to sort of work our way out of recession. I get it, and I think that I'm a multiple business owner, investor and developer. If you will, I'm probably a capitalist. Do I believe in hard work and creating value? Of course I do. Life's not that simple. I'm not even going to get into the sort of a political battle there because I'm just not that interested. But what I am very interested in is how the knock-on effect of that is going to affect us as property investors and what I think will happen over the next coming months. So the mini budget and the moves they made, it was attempting to solve the same problem, the UK sliding into recession, as we talked about in the previous 2 videos with the Bank of England moving the percentages of the base rate. So we went through that process. Now, what we've got is Kwasi working completely opposite way to the base rate in the Bank of England. They're both trying to solve the same problem, but I do, in my limited knowledge, think that they're pulling in completely different directions. That concept is what has made, in the short term, the pound absolutely tank. So the pound's devalued against foreign currencies, and that breeds a real sort of lack of trust and a real hesitation and a real, well, because we're in the UK, of course, we then end up in a very scaremongery type scenario around the pound. The English press jump on that, and we did talk about this in video number 2, about one of the things that actually causes a deeper recession is the UK press and the scaremongering and the constant talk, and it can drive you mental, make you lock up shop, hide all your cash under your mattress for a rainy day and actually not do anything. And where do we end up? In a deeper recession, because everybody's stopped. So I do think that it's the reaction of the mini budget against the Bank of England, them pulling the wrong directions to try and save the same problem, that has forced this sort of reactive piece with the pound sterling. But I do think it'll settle, as all things do. I am seeing a huge reaction to what is happening right now. And why I'm saying that is, reactions are often very emotional. If you're reacting quickly to a situation, you're most often acting emotionally. You haven't actually had time to sit back and think about the logic behind that and make good decisions. The press prey on that. It's all emotional, it's all what sells, and unfortunately negativity sells better than positivity, so you know what you're going to get from them. What I want to do very quickly though is jump into what we do know, what's happened in our sector in the property market right now, what can we take from it, because I've said it before, I'm no mystic Meg, but I can tell you what's happening right now. So first of all, we're going to focus on lending. We talked about being very reactive to a scenario, and there is nobody more reactive than the UK press. Next in line is the lenders. Okay, so the tier 2 lenders, the banks that lend within the property sector, the buy-to-let lenders, bridging, etc. And to be honest, it's buy-to-let comes before development finance and bridging. There's some overlap there in lenders. And the press have jumped on the fact that a lot of mortgage products have been pulled. I can't tell you percentages, but they're in the press if you want to read them. A high percentage of mortgage products in the very short term have been pulled off the market. Oh my God, the sky is falling down. We can't invest anymore. The property market's going to crash. But in reality, a very high percentage of those mortgage products will be back next week. They will be back next week on a slightly higher rate. So they've pulled products because they're not comfortable about those products going out en masse, because they're not comfortable about what the Bank of England will do in response to Kwasi's mini budget, because they're pulling in different directions. So to cover their butts against the base rate moving again, they've pulled products and they will re-enter the market at a slightly higher rate, which, let's face it, is nothing we didn't expect from the whole concept of recession, inflation and the base rate movement. So we've just got a bit of a quicker reactive movement of what we already knew was going to happen as far as base rate and as far as how the lenders in the buy-to-let market would react to that. Lending's gone in the very short term away from being fixed, and most lenders in the market have moved their fixed products to variable products straight away. So in essence, they're sharing the risk with you. Look, if the base rate moves, guys, you're going to be paying more. We're not fixing because they're not fixing, and on goes the cycle. This won't last, in my opinion, for very long. Things need to calm down. People need to start thinking logically instead of emotionally. And then I think we will find our new percentages of ways of doing business and actually structuring deals again. Now, as far as the property market, as ever, the press are jumping on it. I've heard some horrific statements around the levels of crash that we're going to be seeing. People just tend to get all wrapped up in hysteria, and I just want to know where that comes from. So for anybody who wants to share their opinion on the property market, I always want to know where's that come from. Who are you? What do you do? Where are you buying? Are you investing? What level of the market? People in property, all sorts of areas of property. So where's the opinion come from is really, really important. And actually, have you got anything to back that up? Is it based on emotion and fear and what you heard in the press, or is it based on a logical concept of what's going on in the UK property market? So I would just push you, without necessarily sharing my opinion now, I would push you to sort of say, are the opinions you're taking on board based on logic, or are they based on an irrational emotional reaction? Let's stay logic based, and that will keep us safe. We're investors after all. We don't invest with emotion, we invest with numbers, and we invest with facts. In the UK, obviously we are massively driven by a supply and demand economy. Now, lending going up very slightly, and it is very slightly in the grand scheme of things at the moment, doesn't really change the supply and demand metric. This UK island that we sit on hasn't doubled in size and everything's become PD overnight, so we can just build houses willy-nilly and we've got loads of space. No, none of that. Just we're sliding into recession and the base rate's going up a little bit. Hasn't actually changed a huge amount of metric around UK housing. So the supply and demand, I would say, is going to stay in favour of house prices going up over time without a shadow of doubt. Yes, the new mini budgets put some, I don't know if you've seen, but they want to again have another bash at making planning easier. I have heard this 3 times in the last year, and being a developer myself, I can tell you it ain't easy. And it doesn't matter how many things you attempt to make permitted development, if you don't staff the planning departments correctly, it ain't going to make anything any quicker. So I wouldn't worry about that. Supply and demand stays very much in our favour for long-term capital appreciation and wealth creation through holding property long-term. Zero doubt. Do I think there will be a correction in the market? And listen to what I said there, correction in the market. Yes, I do. I think we've seen unprecedented growth over the last 2 years. I think the growth cycle that we've been in has been exaggerated by COVID, predominantly, and the amount of liquidity in the market and the amount of the psychological effects of COVID and people looking towards asset classes to secure their money. All that we've talked about on many videos has spiked UK house price growth a little bit harder than I think it would have done previously. My opinion, what do I know, but it's my opinion. So I think we are going to see a correction. I think that correction may well be 5%, 7%. I'm going to pull it up shy of 10. I don't think it's going to go there because I think we've got to stay logic based, and I think the supply and demand metric will stay as it is. But I think what will predominantly cause this correction is A, fear driven by the press, and B, lending. So I do think that will have a slowing down effect, which will basically stop the growth, peak off, plateau, and we may see up to sort of 7%, and it's just my opinion, drop there. We will then plough on as ever within the UK housing market. Now, as you know, I'm an investor and developer myself. The concept of trying to time that sort of 5%, I've absolutely no idea. I really don't. And when I'm looking at new developments, new investments to take myself, hopefully we're completing on something today, it's just very simply doing the numbers based on facts, based on what you know right now, based on the lending terms you can sign right now, the deals you can sign right now, because thinking things are going to be enormously better in 6 months, 9 months is just very simply the way of procrastination setting in, which really never progressed anybody. So if a deal's good, get it done. I would say that in every market, but just be mindful of your criteria, what you can sign up to right now. And on top of that, just be very astute and clear about your strategy. So if your strategy is to hold this property long term for cash flow and capital appreciation, whether you time a 3% dip, a 1% dip, or a 2% raise, it doesn't really matter over time. I know you might think that's easy for me to say from my position, but it wasn't 6 years ago when I started. It is now, because I believe in the power of property over time, because I can see it in my bank balance. Okay, so look, that's the wrap up from me. It's a little bit of what's happened right now. As I say, it's the 29th of September. It's quite a fast moving world we're living in right now. Just remain calm, remain logical. Try not to read too much of the press, in all honesty, because I think it's going to send you batshit crazy. Stay with us, stay logical. If we've added some value and you like what you're hearing here and we've calmed you right down, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and we look forward to seeing you again real soon.